Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this special webinar where we'll be discussing Cohort 2 of the Creating Brave Spaces hybrid program. My name is Jerry Nash, and I'm the principal of Cinegap Solutions and thrilled to be alongside my two colleagues, Dr. Joanna Pagonis, the CEO, and Katie Allen, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Cinegap Solutions Leadership Consulting. They're also the co-creators of this unique leadership and employment development course. In the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to dive into the program and find out the why behind it, what makes it different from other leadership and employee courses, and how our participants from the first cohort have already experienced incredible growth in their workplace. So let's get started and dive into these questions. So first and foremost, I think I want to ask this open question is to why this course? We have a bunch of successful courses with Cinegap Solutions, their leadership courses, other courses that are self-directed and virtual. But what makes this CBS hybrid course different from other courses within our catalog?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll take that and then see if Katie wants to add anything. Thank you. That's a great question. So we created, and we call it CBS for short. So we created it out of a need that we saw in organizations that we were working with, our clients, right? We realized that they needed something that was more intentional around how to create and nurture psychological safety in the workplace. It's not just talk about it in theory, but some actual strategies that they could apply to enhance, as I mentioned, the level of psychological safety. And from my own experience, I could relate to that. I spent most of my career working in and navigating in male-dominated industries. I mean, my first real job was with a logistics company, and I was the only woman working there, eventually making my way to a law enforcement organization as a civilian, where once again, women were not necessarily the dominant group. And so time and time again, I encountered like a similar phrase and sentence, like this is a safe space, feel like you can be yourself. But I really learned quickly that safety in these spaces wasn't necessarily reserved for someone like me, someone who didn't fit the mold of that dominant group, right? Leaving me to navigate a lot of fears and uncertainties alone. And there were times where it was really stressful. And I wasn't sure how to properly navigate through that and to develop confidence in those kind of working environments. And so it was in those moments that I realized we need a different kind of approach to leadership, one that just doesn't say this is safe and make it so. That's not true, but one that creates and nurtures the courage to be brave through deliberate action. And what I discovered was by doing that and testing the boundaries myself in terms of how courageous I could be in being authentic and speaking up, I learned many things, some that were really sobering and some that were really empowering. And what I discovered was that true safety in the workplace isn't something we can just say, hey, it's here, it's declared. It's something that we have to intentionally cultivate and develop. And more importantly, if we wait for others to create that sense of safety for us, it is a path that will lead to frustration and stagnation. And what I discovered was the real power lies in finding the courage to act, even in the face of uncertainty. And by doing so, then you start to role model that and encourage others to do that. And so that was the genesis, that realization that I had from my career experiences was the genesis of what I called brave spaces. And it's an approach that acknowledges that the reality of workplace dynamics while providing a framework for positive change. It's the foundation of the program, the course. We created the online course first, and then we developed the hybrid program afterwards. And so that whole framework is the foundation of both those programs and the learning experiences within. Katie and I also devoted a whole podcast season to the concept of creating brave spaces. And this work is also something that we've been focused on over the last few years. It's our approach to psychological safety. And it's something that through research, we've been further developing and improving. And so what makes this different from even some of the courses we currently offer and other courses on psychological safety is that it discusses the importance of the concept with actionable strategies. Other courses like to talk about it more in theory. I mean, I would say all of our courses really do focus on a practical application, but what makes this one stand out from others that I've seen other training providers offer is not just the this is what safety, psychological safety is, and this is something you have to do, especially if you're a leader. But we really talk about the how around that. And so how do we help individuals feel empowered to take risks? How do we equip them with the strategies to have difficult conversations while still maintaining and growing and nurturing trusting relationships within their workplace? And what are all the steps required to create that kind of workplace environment? So it makes it a bit easier to tackle challenges. There's still a certain amount of discomfort, and we talk about that. Discomfort's okay. Psychological safety doesn't mean it's devoid of discomfort, right? And so those are some of the concepts that we really dive deeply in and focus on. And some of the ways that we do that is that we blend self-reflection with practical application to help build confidence in people's ability to lead bravely in the workplace.
Okay. Now, as you mentioned, there are a lot of courses out there, psychological safety courses, or maybe even some that may reference brave spaces, maybe not in the hybrid version as you're talking. And give me some more specifics. You talked about different. What is some more specifics about the CBS course that makes this so different than maybe anything else that's out there?
Yeah, and that came from, I'm excited that you asked that question. About I think it was a year ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, but we were looking at creating a hybrid blended experience with the online course. And we were trying to figure out how best to do that, that would really equip people with the skills and the strategies to apply the things that they were learning through the online course. And then I had a revelation. When I used to work with the government of Alberta, Justice and Solicitor General, it was a mega ministry. There was like 7,000 employees there. And my team was responsible for developing leadership training. My boss at the time, who had experience as a therapist, talked about a strategy that they used when they were training them to be therapists called the Fishbowl experience. And she thought it would be a great approach in developing leaders, not just therapists. And through this method, we could equip leaders with what's called a coach approach to being a supervisor. So not teaching individuals how to be an executive coach, but teaching them the skills that coaches use, which is listening, empathy, and asking really powerful, open-ended questions that help people reach their full potential in many ways. And so we did that. We tried it out, we tested it, and it worked really, really well. So I said to Katie, why don't we try to recreate something like that, but specific to our clients and their needs and specific to the content of the program. And so the structure is what makes this very different. It's not just an online course or paired with virtually instructor-led workshop discussions. It combines self-paced learning with live interactive coaching circles and a fishbowl experience. So I'll dive more deeply into that. So the coaching circles is a way for participants to support each other's growth by acting both as a coach and a coachee. And once, like I said, we're not trying to develop them into executive coaches, but to use a coach approach, right? And so as maybe the person who's bringing forward a concern to someone else, right? I'm the person who may have the ability or be put into a privileged position to lead that discussion. And so how do we do that? Using a coach approach. So we equip our participants to learn those skills, but also what does it take to be a good listener, a good coachee, if you will, somebody who's open and receptive to listening and hearing feedback. So it's just as important to be able to lead a coaching discussion as much as it is important to be a part of a coaching discussion. And so through the coaching circles, we teach this approach and being able to guide the discussions, but also listen as well. So the peer-to-peer learning environment is really what creates powerful moments of insight, but also mutual support. The goal is to foster deep connections between the participants so that learning goes beyond the surface level and goes really deep. And that while they're practicing this in a somewhat safe environment, you still have to be vulnerable and take a risk and be uncomfortable to try these things out while other people are watching in the coaching circle. But if you can try it there in a small little cohort of about 5 people, because we may have a larger cohort, but then people are divided into smaller cohorts. So about 5 people, they travel through the learning journey with the same 4 or 5 people. So they really start to develop trust and understand the stages of group and team development. and really start to unpack the concepts that we teach in the course through this cohort journey. Therefore, they're more likely to apply it when they go back to the workplace. And so we did an evaluation of the first cohort, and that's exactly what the participants said that they were able to do. They even called the course vanguard in terms of its ability to really recreate the learning experience as compared to a lot of the courses they've taken in the past. Further to the coaching circles, the fishbowl, I mentioned that, so I will take a moment to talk about it. The fishbowl experience allows participants to present a real life case scenario from their workplace that's attached to, if you will, some of the concepts they're learning in the course. So one topic, for example, is mindset, vulnerability, and values. And so they can choose one of those topics and come to their fishbowl experience. So each coaching circle, each participant's assigned to a coaching circle, and it's that coaching circle on that date that they have to bring their real life experience. So we've had a participant talk about mindset. And so they came and talked about real life experience they had with an employee that they were having a challenging time with because they had formed this mindset about that employee that they were having a hard time breaking free from. They had this unconscious bias that was deeply rooted in their belief system that totally influenced how they approached this person and how they communicated with them. And it was destroying the trust between the two of them. And so they brought this experience in. And in the fishbowl, so let's say there's 5 people, there's 4 people that are watching in the coaching circle while that one person sits in the fishbowl with a coach. And the coach engages them in a coaching conversation to help this person unpack that experience through powerful questions. So what ends up happening is they learn what it's like to be coached and be open and receptive to that. Everyone else is also observing and learning how to ask powerful questions. And then after the fishbowl experience, which is about 20, 25 minutes, we open it up to the group, and the group can then engage in a coaching-like conversation with the person in the fishbowl to then either support them and ask them questions and help them develop further insight, and also figure out how they're going to then take what they've learned and go back and tackle that challenge that they're experiencing in the workplace. And what we've discovered is if you can do that, you're more confident when you go back to work to say, okay, I'm ready to go. I can do this.
Well, okay, fantastic. The couple things, if I can just summarize or tell me if this you mean, like I know from the coaching piece, there's so much confusion at times, and I'm glad you clarified it. They feel I coached someone, and really what they did is they told someone what to do. That's not what you're talking about, which is important, is asking those powerful questions and leading with curiosity. I love that. The fishbowl experience, what a gift to the participants. As I'd love to share that, is because how many courses do you have where you can bring in a problem that you're actually living right now, experiencing, and get that kind of support in that fishbowl environment, that safe environment, to start tackling it on how to go forward with it to help resolve or make things better. That's fantastic. So this is the second cohort that we're trying to give information about. For people still can register for this cohort. But I want to circle back to cohort 1, and I guess to help anyone get off the fence if they want to take this course or not, or put someone on this course, what's the sort of feedback that maybe you got from some of the first participants, or maybe some changes that you may have done with respect to the course for this second cohort? Who wants
Thanks,
to take
Jerry.
that?
I'll take a stab
Okay.
at this one. I'll
Okay.
get started and Joanna can chime in. But maybe I'll start by saying that we launched the online program, the online course, Creating Brave Spaces first. And we were able to get quite a bit of feedback. We had quite a few people go through that online program and really great feedback there. A lot of what we heard is there's so much really good content. There was a desire for them to be able to have a space to unpack it because it's pretty jammed. And maybe I can just give a high level overview of some of those topics. As Joanna said, we developed this based on a need we were hearing from clients. And I can think back, originally it was a little more focused on folks wanted a tool, a framework for things like difficult conversations or conflict, which is fine and good. And we have that. But we thought there's such an opportunity in creating Brave Spaces framework to first start with self-awareness. So that's exactly where the online program starts. So you get to look at things like emotional intelligence, values, mindset, as Joanna mentioned, these topics such as vulnerability, authenticity, Then they get to move through some modules on connecting with others. So there's lessons on inclusion, diversity, unconscious bias, psychological safety, empathetic listening, and coaching. So again, I know Joanna touched on a few of those, but just to situate it in the modules here. Then there's a module on responding to challenges where we go through conflict and difficult conversations. But at that stage, there's again been a lot of opportunity to reflect and develop some of the insight around self-awareness before you can then do the 4 steps to have a difficult conversation, for example. And then we ended off with a module we thought it would be important on maintaining brave spaces. So boundaries and assertiveness were really key pieces that we thought needed to be a part of this discussion. How do you not just create a brave space, but be able to maintain that effectively? So again, that's a lot that's in that online course. So the early feedback helped us think of, well, in this hybrid model, how could we give them a really unique opportunity to apply it? So I think Joanna did a really great job of speaking to the fishbowl and the coaching circles. I'm just looking at our impact map here because we got overwhelmingly really positive feedback. People really enjoyed not only the learning materials that kind of helped them through the online modules and the virtual sessions, but the relevance. So we had near 95% ratings around the relevance of the material, the topics in the course. In terms of what was most impactful, that fishbowl experience was top of the list. But people really enjoyed the online modules and being able to sort of chip away at that in their own time and way, as well as those small group discussions and observing the fishbowl. But number one was being in the fishbowl. I know from participants, it was quite uncomfortable to do that. You're really having to sort of walk the talk of some of the things we were teaching them, of being a little bit exposed, being quite vulnerable by sharing a real life thing in front of some peers. But they really got a lot out of that. So that's what really excited Joanna and I most, because we were being kind of creative and taking a risk by trying something really different that we knew would push people to a zone of discomfort, but we know there can be so much learning in that. So some of the feedback in terms of the qualitative, some of the quotes we received really circled around self-awareness. Like they felt that they were able to take a step back and understand themselves quite a bit more, which helped them tackle situations they were managing at work. So someone said that the course helped them to step back, look at situations with a different lens. People talked about how application is ongoing, but this has helped them to be a bit more present. An approach to listening, sort of that coach approach, was something that they're being more deliberate with. So, yeah, those were some of the key pieces of the impact map and from our first cohort, and everyone would have recommended it to someone else. A lot of the feedback also talked about, I wish others in my organization would take this. It would be really excellent to have many levels of leadership be able to use the language and the lingo and apply some of these learnings. So I'll pause there. I'm curious, Joanne, if you want to add anything.
Yes, just one quote, because as I'm planning and preparing the social media and assets that we're going to be posting, I'm going through all the data and all the tests, all the quotes that our participants shared with us with the evaluation process. And there was this one quote that I think really speaks to the power of having peer coaching circles and a fishbowl experience and how it's really impacting their ability to communicate more effectively. And so we had one participant, I'm going to share the one quote. I'm going to be making more of a concerted effort to listen, to understand, not to listen, to respond. I have this tendency to one-up people's experience by telling them how my situation is worse. The reality is that I'm trying to build rapport with people when in fact, it could be seen as one-upmanship.
That's a good one. Thanks for sharing that. There were so many good ones. I'm glad you added that.
Fantastic. In my previous life, being a manager, a supervisor, and making the decisions on sending people to courses, I want to talk about ROI. Now, money's tight. I know you have to be very strategic with your training. What should someone who's either making the decision or a participant expect to get from this program? Who wants to take that one?
Joanna, yeah, I'm wondering, Joanna, if you have this quote in front of you, but we had a quote from a participant that talked about how, to the effect of it can be hard to take time out of the day-to-day of work to do these sorts of development or leadership training, but the impact it has when folks come back sort of refreshed, re-energized, and with their toolkits full, that it can be really important. So, Joanna, do you happen to have that in front of
I
you?
do. I do.
Okay,
Because
can you?
I actually just
Maybe I
created a
captured
social
it,
media
but
post for it today.
okay.
So I
Oh,
actually have it right
good,
in front of
good.
me. Okay. It says, I knew there were things that I needed to work on, like listening better. I can get so wrapped up in the day to day and lose sight of what is important. I'm so focused on keeping my head above water. I forget to check on my people. We talked about that in one of our coaching fishbowls. It's not what you say, it's how you make people feel. I want to embrace this lesson and be a better leader. I think that really does speak to the return on investment. And we have this conversation sometimes with our clients is, money's tight. And so training is usually not the mandatory training, but everything else is like leadership development and training on interpersonal skill development is usually scaled back significantly because honestly, we don't do a good job. And when I say we, meaning anybody who's in a training and development position, whether they're a vendor, they have their own company, or whether they actually work for an organization within that role. We really do struggle historically in providing the return on investment to demonstrate how this training will make leaders more effective. And the more effective they are, the more engaged their team is. And we know from research, the more engaged a team is, the more productive they are. The more productive they are, the better able they are to achieve the operational and strategic goals of the company or the organization. We see a lot of companies now struggling to meet those objectives because when you look at what's really happening is people not being able to deal with interpersonal conflict, to be uncomfortable with a certain amount of discomfort and work through challenges. I've heard people say to me, I was being bullied and no one did anything about it. And part of me was like, what did you do about it? How come? And you're a senior manager. Why didn't you do anything about it? Why did you wait for somebody to do something about it? And if you're a senior manager and you're struggling and dealing with it, what are you role modeling to your staff? And if they're having a hard time communicating with people, how effective are they at doing what they're doing? And so by teaching these people, the individuals and participants and learners these skills, it makes them more powerful leaders and makes their team more effective as well. To me, that's the return on investment. Yes, it's not a quick bang for your buck for sure, but we know that quick fixes tend to fail. It's the long-term strategic solutions that will succeed over the long time. And this is one of those things. But honestly, I don't think the return on investment took that long for these participants because they applied it immediately. So I would even say it's not a quick fix because obviously there's money involved and it's a multi-week program. And it runs over 2 months, but within those 2 months they're applying, and even after the 2 months they're applying. So you will see returns sooner than you think.
And if I could just add quickly to that, I think even reflecting on the cohort that we first went through, they all are busy people. They have a lot on their plate. They're stressed. So I think at the beginning it was like, okay, I've got to kind of get into the mindset for this course. But over time, it became something they looked forward to. And a lot of them talked about how they were excited to have a space where they could come, get a bit of peer support from the group, be able to offload some of what was going on and actually get some tangible tools and support to work through it. And it became a space where they were able to recharge. So just knowing what we know on the state of the workplace, burnout, low engagement, like this could be a space that is not a one-off. It's not just go do this course in your office. It's a space that's created again over 2 months that takes some time, but that can be a space to renew a lot of people's energy. So that was kind of a cool to see. I didn't necessarily expect that when we facilitated it, but that was cool, cool to see.
Right. It wasn't, and I've seen this in some of the other courses we've offered. Like people come in they don't look happy to be there. They're kind of voluntold to participate. And obviously creating Brave Spaces hybrid program was no different. We had a couple of folks like that, but at the end they were like, I am sad that this is ending because now I look forward to attending every coaching circle, and I'm going to be really sad when this is over. And then this is what they said too, because there was other people. If you're wondering, should I have more than one person from my organization in the same cohort? Yes, because that's what we had in cohort 1. And what they said is, although we're sad it's ending, I have made connections with 2-3 new people. I'm not alone. And the higher up we go in the organization, the more alone and isolated we are and we feel. And they felt like that they had developed a community between the leaders there. And although I say this, you don't have to be a former leader to take this. The skills you learn like I said, like my own personal experience that I shared, I learned how to test the boundaries of my own courage in an informal leadership position. And I was still a role model to other people, including formal leaders. So when I became a formal leader, I was more confident to keep doing this. And so you don't have to be a formal leader to take this. There you go. I'll end there.
No, and that, as the two of you were offering that commentary, another thing kind of popped into my mind, but I'd like you to speak about it, is, obviously we're creating a brave space. We're trying to create a very good culture within small teams, bigger teams, the organization as a whole. How might there be a nexus to maybe recruiting and retention, or retention specifically when it comes to teams? Because I know in my previous organization, if there was a team that wasn't very functional, there were lots of opportunities to leave it. So a lot of people are jumping ship. Retention. Any commentary on that?
Katie?
I mean, I guess I would build off of some of what we shared, even around what this can do for engagement overall. So if that's what you were kind of getting at in terms of what this might do to have folks feel a little bit, as I was saying, renewed, recharged, going back into the workplace with some new tools, a new mindset, we know that can do a lot to help them feel then connected to their organization. If also you're invested in to participate in something like this, it's quite an opportunity. So yeah, I guess initially it just seems that it fits really nicely with what we talked about in terms of engagement. Yeah, Joanne, anything else you want to?
Yeah, the more committed people are. So if people feel like they're encouraged to speak up, they're not reprimanded for that, they're taught to try it and test it out. And when they make a mistake, it doesn't work out in terms of what they've planned around how they're going to have some of these kind of conversations at the workplace, but their supervisors are there to support them through that and say, it's okay. It's part of it is practice and learning how to use these tools to your fullest advantage. Like if we have those kind of workplace environments, like we're not reprimanded for making mistakes, we're encouraged to embrace our discomfort and to speak up, people will stay. We know from the research that millennials and Gen Z want to work in an environment where they feel like the organization has their back and invests in their well-being. Psychological safety is about investing in the well-being of people. And this is what's at the heartbeat of this program, is how to create psychologically safe workplaces where people feel like they can be brave and courageous and speak up. And so if I feel like people are investing and care enough about my psychological safety, I feel overall that they care about my well-being, and that what I say matters and is included. I'm not going to leave that organization and go somewhere else. Gallup reported that we know that millennials and Gen Z are willing to take a $7,000 pay cut to work for a company that does invest in them and does care about them. So that this course and teaching individuals how to use these skills and these strategies can go a long way in enhancing the retention efforts. And also the recruitment. People want to work for an organization like that.
Or small teams. If they have a small team, I know,
yes.
I know I want to be part of that. They're having fun over there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know what? We're probably going to have to wrap this conversation up. But if people are interested in this cohort 2, there's some important dates and times. I think who wants to share? How do we? What's the next step if someone's interested?
Katie?
Yeah, so we are excited to fill cohort 2 here, so we can hopefully kick off shortly. We've got a early bird discount that's currently being offered. And so I guess, Joanna, you can let us know as we wrap up the best way for folks to get there. On our website, though, we would have all of the information, full program outline, and a chance for folks to enroll. We're also available, and we can make sure that as we share out this information, our contact info is in there as well. But folks can also contact us just to inquire further about some of the dates, best fit. We're always planning into the future, so even future cohorts. If you're really excited about this but can't quite make the one that's coming up immediately here, we will be having future iterations. So Joanne, is that the best way? I guess, again, our website, we'll be putting information as we distribute this, but what else do they need to know?
I'd also say that if you want us to do something like this customized for your organization, we can, for sure. We can come and even modify it slightly so it fits within the context of what your organization needs. But yeah, go to sinogapsolutions.com. You can click on the tab that says courses and templates. You'll see the course tile for CBS Hybrid Cohort 2. We're going to be using this video to continue to promote this program. It's a new program. A lot of people don't know about it. And so I know we're talking about cohort 2. By the time you see this, maybe we're on cohort 3 or 4. So once again, go to the website and check out the course tab, and you'll see the course tile there. info@CinemaGap Solutions is another place, another way you can connect with us, to send us an email. Social media, follow myself, Joanna Pagonis on LinkedIn, Katie Allen is on LinkedIn, Jerry Nash with a J is on LinkedIn. You can follow us. I'm always posting. My team posts and they repost. So, and subscribe to our newsletter as well. So if you go to our website, cinemagapsolutions.com, especially on that first page, you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see a form that you can fill in to get our newsletter. And that's another place that you can learn more about this course and other programs that we're also offering. So, and like what I said, this video is going to be up on YouTube. We'll put the links in YouTube under the video description, and I'll be posting this on social media, probably post this on our website as well, and in our newsletter. So I think these are great ways. It's pretty easy, basically, to contact us. Katie.
And one more quick idea. You mentioned it earlier on, but we do have a whole season of our podcast, Tackle Tuesday, dedicated to the topic of creating brave spaces. So if you're like, oh, this is interesting, I want to hear a bit more, that's a really great way. We do a bit more of a deep dive, just so you can familiarize yourself with some of the content, get to know us a little bit more. But of course, the course kind of does a bit of a deeper dive on all of that. But Tackle Tuesday podcast.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. Thank you. And we're always offering a 15% early bird discount. But if you have multiple people you want to enroll, you don't have to worry about making the deadline. You just let us know, and we'll give that to you as a multiple enrollment discount.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for answering some of the questions. I know we talked about maybe some questions in advance, and I surprised you with some as well. So you're definitely on your feet. And I can share from my 33 years of policing, I sure wish I had a course like this earlier in my career, so I could have treated all of my people with a little bit more care, candor, and empathy, which took me a while to learn from dropping balls. So I really encourage people to actually look at this program and join up and do what's right for your people. So thanks again for joining us. See you from CineGap Solutions.